What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of the Dolphins In Depth podcast. I'm Daniel Yafusi. That is David Neal. Thanks so much for tuning in. Quick reminder before we start, make sure to subscribe to the Miami Herald YouTube page, like, share, comment, as well as subscribe to the Miami Herald.
Herald.
We are here. Football is back in earnest. NFL football specifically is back. Your Miami Dolphins kick off the 2023 season this Sunday in Los Angeles at SoFi Stadium. They're taking on the Los Angeles Chargers, a rematch of last year's Sunday night football flop, dud, whatever you want to call it. It was not what many expected last year. The highly anticipated Tua Justin Herbert matchup. Yeah, a lot of bad things happening for the Dolphins. They kind of went on that late season skid, but they get an opportunity to kind of avenge that loss early. Tyreek Hill himself said it. I'm glad the NFL put it first week of the season so we can get it out the way. There's a lot of talk about what the Chargers did to stop the Dolphins. Can they do it again? Mike McDaniel's talking about it. We're going to talk about that as well as give our overall season-long predictions for the Dolphins, for the NFL, see how long or how far we've got Miami taking this season and who we think is going to take the Lombardi Trophy in the end. But we're going to start with, like I said, the Week 1 season opener, Dolphins-Chargers. A very interesting matchup with a lot of layers to it for several reasons. Now, as I said before, the Dolphins losing to the Chargers late season Sunday night primetime stage, with what a lot of people saw as this kind of unique defensive game plan. We knew the Dolphins were having a lot of success last season targeting the middle of the field. And by and large, the Chargers completely took that away. They were very physical. They clogged the middle of the field. And Tua had one of his worst games of the season, 10 of 28, I believe. Not a lot going for him outside of a 60-yard touchdown pass to Tyreek Hill. Kind of a fluke. If you remember the fumble recovery where the ball kind of squirts out the pile and Tyreek picks it up, and before you know it, he's running up the sideline for a touchdown. Outside of that, not much going for the Dolphins offense. So a lot of the questions, understandably, this week so far to Mike McDaniel, to Tyreek Hill, to others is, how unique was this game plan? Do you expect them to replicate it? Mike McDaniel kind of laughed and chuckled at, this Brandon Staley game plan that a lot of people are touting. Tyreek Hill said, yeah, it was a very good game plan. I would expect to see the same exact thing. However, we have some wrinkles. We have some wrinkles to this matchup. Ronaldo Hill, who is the defensive coordinator for the Chargers, he is now an assistant coach with the Dolphins. He worked with Brandon Staley to execute that game plan on last year. He's now on Miami sideline. So we have a little bit of insider information, so to speak. You also have Vic Fangio, who is really the godfather of this defense and this type of too high shell defenses that a lot of NFL defenses are using, Brandon Staley in particular. So you have really the architect of the defense, a defense that the Dolphins offense has been going up against for the last 4 or 5 months. You would think that they are in as best as a position as they've ever been to kind of counteract what they might see this Sunday. Mike McDaniel himself said, week 1, you see a lot of different stuff. You have a lot of months and months of kind of trying new stuff out, and then you get to really put it on display. So you would think that the Dolphins are in a position to really, avenge that loss in terms, especially on offense, in terms of being prepared for what the Chargers might do. What do you think about this matchup? How much does last year's game really factor into this matchup?
I don't think year to year, I don't think you get the same. I don't, unless you had the exact same personnel and the exact same coaching staffs, or close to the exact same coaching staffs and personnel, because you never have exactly 100% the same. It's hard for a repeat. Certain overall patterns happen, but it's very hard for a repeat. And the Chargers have to figure, okay, they're not idiots over there. We're, okay, let's say we come out and do X again. Well, now this time maybe they're going to try Y. So we have to work on, them doing what happens if they do Y. And maybe that leads to, the Chargers not being as sharp as what they did before, because you've got, they're also preparing for the Dolphins, countering them, and the Dolphins are sitting over there figuring, okay, they're not going to be so stupid as to just come out with the exact same thing again, no matter what. They said, oh yeah, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Right. But they're not going to be so stupid as to not be prepared if it breaks. So, they're going to be ready with adjustments. And then, it's so I think both staffs are kind of looking at last year's game, making adjustments, figuring out, trying to, play the chess game during the week. And I think a lot of this is going to come down to if when the Dolphins have the ball, what we see early. I think if the Dolphins get off to a better start, I think there's a confidence factor that they have against most teams that might be a tad fragile against San Diego because of what happened. But I think if the Dolphins get off to a decent start, then it's like, okay, fine, that was last year. And athletes do tend to have short memories, unless the same thing starts to happen again, in which case they suddenly, they get that, Sheldon Cooper memory where they remember everything. And then the snowball can go the other way. I think the really interesting question is, how's the Dolphins defense going to look against San Diego's offense?
Los Angeles, you mean?
Yeah, I know.
No, but that's a good point.
I'm
That's a
like
good point.
Armando. It'll always be San Diego to me. But no, that the Chargers off that matchup is as interesting, I think, as the Dolphins offense.
It is a new offense. I mean, well, kind of. They have Kellen Moore in there now. So coming over from Dallas. They didn't really play a lot of their starters and top players in the preseason. So there is a little bit of that element of surprise, like you don't know what to expect. Christian Wilkins even said, we kind of got to watch some old Dallas film and just kind of see tendencies and what they might do.
And also, but while if you're going to do that, while the Dolphins are doing that, the Chargers also have to, if they, they're kind of getting in groove with this with their relatively new offense. And while the Dolphins are getting in groove with their new defense, boy, if I look at these two rosters and these two coaches and these schemes and everything, and say, okay, what unit am I more confident in going into their first real game with a new scheme and under a new coordinator? It's definitely going to be the Dolphins. I'm definitely going to be thinking, hey, they're going to have the edge there. And so I think that might also give the Dolphins offense a little bit of leeway, a little bit of time to get their stuff together if things don't start off, if things start off the way they kind of went the whole game last year. And so I think that matchup and what the Dolphins defense can do as far as turnovers, as far as field position, I think that might go a long way toward, determining this game more so than the sexy, can they stop, how many, can they hold the Dolphins to 1 or 2 50-yard completions?
Yeah, a couple other things stick out to me. Excuse me, really sticking to the offense. This is the first time that we're going to get to see whether the comments about running the ball more and the commitment to the running is legitimate, because there were some opportunities in the Chargers game to run the ball. I mean, and I think that they tried to run the ball, but they just didn't have the success. So it's a matter of, are you going to stay committed to it? And when you do get those opportunities, are you going to capitalize off them? One thing in terms of availability this game compared to last year for the Chargers, they didn't have, I believe, 3 two or three standout defensive players that I think are definitely going to play. Cornerback J.C. Jackson and Joey Bosa. I guess those two for sure. Those two guys were not available. They were injured out of last week's game. So this was a lot of like the backups, the second stringers for of what was really regarded as a not good Chargers defense stepping up and playing one of the best games of the year against the Dolphins. So now you add two of those guys. You have a healthy Khalil Mack. That's going to be a lot for the Dolphins to handle. On the Dolphins offensive line, there's still, I mean, we're recording this on Tuesday afternoon. The Dolphins held practice on Monday. Tua Tagovailoa did not practice as he's been returning or rehabbing the leg injury he had in practice in Houston. He wasn't expected to practice Monday. We don't know if he's going to practice Wednesday or this week. If he doesn't play, we've already been down that road, how significant it is when he's not in the lineup. If he doesn't play, Kendall Lamb would most likely be the starting left tackle. And while I think he's serviceable, he's not to run fit. So if he doesn't play, I think that changes a lot. I mean, we said that a lot last year, but it's holding true for the first game of the season. If he doesn't play, and then you got to block Joey Bosa, Khalil Mack for 30, 40 dropbacks, that changes a lot. It changes a lot in the one game. So that's something to monitor. It's going to be very interesting to see whether he can play in that first game of the season. Because the day before he was hurt in Houston, he said, I'm not ready yet. I still need to get some practice reps. And since that injury, he has not practiced. I know he's a veteran who the Dolphins trust they trust putting him in the game without practicing during the week. But it's been about 3 or so weeks, maybe close to a month now, or I'll say probably like 2-3 weeks since he's last hit the practice field. If he's not able to hit the field, I think that's very significant. And that changes a lot for the Dolphins. We know how important he is to that entire offensive line. Even if you have Isaiah Wynn or Liam Eichenberg starting at left guard, if Teron Armstead isn't in there, that's a significant loss in game one.
That's a major problem. I mean, you got Mack and Bosa are major problems anyway. So the thought that, that you're going to have to play them without, your offensive lineman who is most able to, if not neutralize them, at least, put a damper on, the fires they can cause and the problems they can cause. That's pretty tough. And honestly, if Teron Armstead isn't playing, if I'm the Dolphins, I would, as soon as I could early in that game, run a few traps and screens to that side, whatever you got in the playbook that looks like that.
We saw them run a lot of screens in the preseason. I'm very interested. I asked Mac McDaniel about that. He said it may or may not show up in the regular season. I think regardless of whether he's in there, you get Tyreek running one way, you do a fake, go a running back screen, like you do a lot. You just try to keep them on their heels because again, the Chargers were like, out of all the game plans we saw, I mean, it was very clear and it was very executed very well. It was jam the guys, stay hip to hip on them, crowd the middle of the field. And we didn't see a lot of teams play like significant levels of man coverage because there's not really a lot of DBs who can keep up with Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. But they were able to do it, partly because they had great coverage, and partly because they were able to, disrupt Tua, get to him in the backfield. I'm very interested to see the counters that Mike McDaniel has for that because he said it himself. It's not like they revolutionized or reinvented defense. They just played very, very well. And he said they had a couple of 50-50 balls that just didn't go their way. But he said it himself. He said week one, you tend to see, it's so new, it's so fresh that sometimes you don't even want to count. You don't want to factor in what happened 6 months ago, even though a lot of the players and the key players are the same.
Yeah, and the scheme was good. As you said, they didn't reinvent anything. They played a good scheme. But the former Indiana coach Bill Mallory used to say they expressed it well. And if they played that game 10 times, would they express that scheme as well? another 9 times. They did it once, but yeah, I think the Dolphins have. I think that that was a game that also that Mike McDaniel can learn from.
It was one of the very few times during last season where you could say he got outcoached.
Yeah,
You didn't say that a lot.
And I think it's one of those. It's game where he got outcoached conceptually, not just you late getting the play in, or wait a minute, it's
Like
a
X's and
one,
O's.
third
Like
and
I
one,
was better than you.
right? And that happens. But obviously it happens. You learn from it. Let's see.
But the question is now, because this is regular season mode. We're giving predictions now. Will those adjustments, will those changes lead to a Dolphins season opening win? I'll go first.
You go first. I remember how bad we picked this game last year.
I don't even remember. What did I pick? What did I say? Did I pick a
We
Dolphins?
both had the Dolphins winning this one solid. We had them winning big. We look like 5 fools, not just 2.
I mean, what can I say? If I knew everything, I'd be in Vegas. I wouldn't be recording the Dolphins in that podcast right now. But
no, you'd be recording the podcast, then going to Vegas.
But it's a new season. We're 0-0 for now. If you are a Miami Herald subscriber, you've already read my predictions for week 1. I've got the goal. I won't say what I have the Dolphins finishing over the season. That's for the second half. I do think that the Dolphins will be better prepared for the Chargers defensive scheme. But the potential absence of Teron Armstead really does kind of concern me. I think that the return of some key Chargers players who weren't there for the last matchup, JC Jackson, Joey Bosa, that's a little bit concerning because on paper there should be a more talented defense than some of the guys that were out there last time. I honestly think that this could be more of a low scoring game especially because it's week 1, you're still working out the kinks of the offense on both sides. I mean, we saw Tua in the preseason with the offense both for a couple drives. We didn't see the Chargers starting offense out there really much at all. And again, just the defensive minds on both sides, I think we could see a low scoring game. I am taking the Chargers because I think it's week 1. I think, the return of some of those impact guys on defense will make a difference. And I think that, like the Chargers don't have like a great home field advantage, but it is tough. It is tougher. We saw the Dolphins have some issues on the road getting the plays in, just overall continuity offense on the road. They got to show me first, I'm very bullish on this team. I've said that for the past couple of months, but I think week 1 it's a little tough, especially. I mean, we didn't even talk about Justin Herbert a lot, but that's still Justin Herbert. They still got Keenan Allen, Michael Williams. They just drafted another wide receiver, Quentin Johnston from TCU, Austin Eckler. They have a pretty solid offensive line. I think that it'll be one of those back and forth type of games, but I think the Chargers will probably get the edge in this one, 27-24.
I think it's interesting. You said it was going to be a low scoring game.
I know, yeah.
27-24.
I mean, that's like a medium. It's like in the 1990s, 27-24
right.
This is like it's like an average score.
Yeah, when I was a kid, that was a shootout. We were like, woo! I'm going to go with a low score that'll probably beat the under. And I'm going to take the Dolphins in this one because I don't like the matchup really for either offense. But I'm gonna kind of feel a little bit better about the Dolphins' ability to create some turnovers.
They were second to last year, so
yeah, turnovers are a funky thing. They are a capricious mistress. You can't rely on them. They're the side chick. They are completely unreliable. Some years you play great defense, you get a lot of turnovers. Some years you can play great defense and somehow you don't seem to get a lot of turnovers relative to how well you're playing. So I'm going to go with the Dolphins 20-17.
Okay.
So
Yeah, I think the over under is like 51. So yeah, you'd be going way below.
yeah. I'm not of course, yeah, that could all get ruined by a couple of scoop and scores and a pick six, and somebody returns a kickoff or punt for a touchdown, and the over bettors are happy. But I'm thinking we're gonna get that kind of game, and I think there'd be one big play and one drive probably per side, and there's gonna be some turnovers on each from each defense. So
So we're starting the season not on one accord. We're going opposite
no,
directions of our predictions. I do think it's I would say I think it's a winnable game for the Dolphins. The Dolphins come out and they were talking next Tuesday and we're saying, oh, Dolphins are 1-0. They took care of business. They kind of exercised some demons in Los Angeles. I would not be surprised. I just think that Herbert's good. Like that guy's good.
yeah, he is.
I think that the Dolphins defense is going to be up to the task. I think they're going to be a very good unit. Um, I just I don't know. The Chargers are a team that has a lot of top end talent too. They're kind of not just like the Dolphins, but they've made the big moves for J.C. Jackson and for Khalil Mack, and then now they have one of the best young quarterbacks leading them. They're not devoid of talent. They can win one-on-one matchups outside of scheme. Whether it's
What they seem to be always is devoid of any kind of good fortune.
oh well, they had good fortune last year when they played the Dolphins. I'll tell you that.
I mean, no, but I mean, how many? There have been a lot of years when you look at the Chargers and you just think, man, that's a really talented team. That should be a 9, 10, 11 win team, and something happens. Even when they have those really great seasons, they get in the playoffs. Somebody gets injured. It never seems to really work out for them. And this isn't just, I mean, with the exception of 1994, a million years ago, but this is pretty much their history for like the last 60 years. It's never quite seemed to work out for them, even when they have it all together. And it's hard for me to rely on them.
I'm not saying anything about the
They can be
season.
relied on to mess up your program.
I'm not
That's
saying
what
anything
it
about
is.
the season. I'm just saying one game. I'm not
Well,
picking them to be better than the Chiefs in the
no, but
division, or I'm just
yeah,
picking
but
them one game, week one of the season.
I just think they always mess up your program. They always win when you don't expect them to. They always beat teams they shouldn't, and win when they shouldn't, and it just and great uniforms. Love the uniforms.
Powder blue, smooth, very smooth.
Oh, love the powder blues. Love the powder blues.
But just not week one. You're going with the Dolphins. All right, I got
Yeah,
Chargers.
no.
I got Chargers. You got Dolphins. We'll see what happens on Sunday. But on two sides of the coin this week. All right, we're gonna take a short break, but when we come back on this side of things, we're gonna give our full season-long predictions for the Dolphins. They won a 9-8 last year. They made some big moves. Are they ready to take that next step? We're gonna give our big overall NFL predictions, see who we got taking home the Lombardi Trophy this season. So be back. We'll be back soon after a short break. Stay locked with us. What's going on, everybody? Still here on the Dolphins In Depth podcast with David Neal, talking all things Dolphins. Now, in the first half, we previewed the Dolphins season opener on the road against the Los Angeles Chargers. David is taking the Dolphins. I am taking the Chargers. I know a lot of Dolphins fans are not happy to hear that, but I'm just going with them for week one. But I want to take a couple steps back, 17 games step back, and look at the regular season. I don't know. I just made that up right now. And take a season-long preview projection of the Dolphins. Now, again, if you are a Miami Herald subscriber, you saw our rollout.
Which you should be.
Should be. Subscribe. You saw the rollout of our special section last week. A bunch of great stories previewing the Dolphins season. I wrote about Tua's jiu-jitsu training this offseason. We had some great features on Jalen Phillips. We had David Neal do all the capsules, which is perfect because he should know about every single team when we're about to give our season-long predictions. However, one of those special section stories was my game by game predictions for the season. And if you read it and if you counted the dubs, counted the L's, you saw or you read that I had the Dolphins finishing 11-6. So I was very bullish on this team, and I feel like I don't know what happened between like the middle of free agency and now. Well, I think I do know what happened. I think the Jalen Ramsey injury, and just watching the team, 20 practices and 3 preseason games. I think this is going to be a very, very good team. And I think that first I'll kind of speak from the national perspective, perception of the team. I think that if you look at, I read everything just to kind of see how people locally and nationally view the team. And I think you see a wide range of projections and results for the Dolphins. And I think part of that is baking in just the unknown of Tua's injury history and just kind of what, just him being a person that has been injured over the first 3 years of his season of his career. He's been injured dating back to his time in college. And I think that maybe subconsciously, maybe even consciously, a lot of people are just kind of assuming or kind of thinking that, or baking that into their projections. I, for one, am not somebody that does that. I don't like factoring or projecting or factoring in injuries into my projections because first of all, I don't wish that on anybody. I don't want to say, oh, I think this guy's going to get hurt and whatnot. But second of all, I don't know. That's too much thinking. Like, who knows? Anything can happen. I mean, like, it's just too much thinking. Some years you just get lucky with injuries. Some years you don't. On paper, I think
But
that
some people, individuals, have a habit of not being available all the time.
that is very true. But I'm doing my predictions the way I'm doing my predictions, and you do your predictions the way you do predictions. With that being said, I will stick to what I said several weeks and months ago when I said that I think that this is a roster that can go toe to toe and compete with just about any team in not only the AFC, not only the AFC East, but the conference. I mean the entire NFL. I think 1-53, and I know the depth isn't great in some spots, but you start playing with your top 11 on offense, your top 11 on defense. I think the Dolphins can compete with any team in the NFL. But with that being said, there are a lot of teams in the AFC who I think that at their best can also compete with just about any team in the NFL. So I have them finishing 11-6. I think the Bills and I was gonna say I don't know how I definitely flip flop. I ain't gonna lie, I definitely flip flop. Because a couple months ago I said I think the Dolphins gonna win the division, and now I'm not picking them to win the division. That's just what we landed on. I'm picking the Bills to finish first, 12-5. The Dolphins to finish second, 11-6. I think the Jets are going to finish third, about 11-6, like 10-7. And I think that the Patriots are going to obviously finish fourth. I think they're going to be a below 500 team. I think that the defense is great. I think having Bill O'Brien back as offense coordinator, as like an offense coordinator who actually knows what he's doing, is going to be very beneficial. But I just think that on offense, they just don't have the skill position players to match up with the rest of the division, the rest of the conference. And I think it's going to be really tough when you have to play 6 games against the Bills, the Dolphins, the Jets, some of the other better teams in the AFC, and you just don't have the offensive for the offensive, skill position players to hold up. I think they're a 500 below 500 team, but kind of finishing off my thoughts with the Dolphins, I do think that they're going to return to the playoffs. Just my general prediction. I think that they're good enough to win a playoff game, but if they have to play on the road, I think that it's very, very obviously very, very dependent on who they play. So right now I have them as 11-6, like second wild card, third wild card, losing in the wild card round, but very, very capable of winning a playoff game, maybe making a run. The Dolphins and really the AFC East and the AFC North kind of, to me, feel like they can put 2 or 3 teams in the playoffs. And that second or third team is better than the record suggests. I think that we're going to have a wild card where we have some 10-7, maybe 11-6, maybe even 9-8 teams who don't win the division, but they get into the playoffs and they're just so battle tested from fighting through their division and their conference, and they're able to win 1 or 2 road games on in the playoffs. I think the Dolphins kind of give me that type of vibe, and I think a lot of it's kind of dependent on what we see with Jalen Ramsey, because I think that before his injury, he was a guy that was supposed to really complete and kind of well, I would say complete this defense. I think that it's a defense that we all think underachieved last year. But with Vic Fangio coming with his system, I think that we just expected some natural turnaround, some natural improvement. And then you add a guy of Jalen Ramsey's caliber, and it's like, all right, this guy completes the defense. A lot of it is dependent on like how they're looking when he comes back and when/if he does come back, because they're talking about December. He's talking about a month before. I'm not really sure how likely that is. But a lot of it is dependent on kind of how they're tracking the final month of the season. And if Ramsey is coming back, how quickly he can be like all Pro Bowl Jalen Ramsey. But 11-6, wild card, second in the division, very capable of winning a playoff game.
This is a tough division. This is one the first thing that's out of my head is that this is a division. Six games against six. There's no gimmies. I think they're going to be better than the Patriots.
I was going to say even the Patriots. I don't think the Patriots are going to be that great, but I think that when they play the Dolphins,
they're going to be right. You can't just chalk that up as the Dolphins are going to take that. No, they're going to, and that's in some ways that how those two games go. It indicates like where, to me, the Dolphins maybe are.
I'm gonna know. We're gonna know for sure.
Are they a above average team, above average / good team, or are they a very good, or better team? Because if you're very good or better, you win those two games. If you're above average good, you split those two games, I think. And because the teams that are, it's an underrated thing to win the games that you theoretically should, and to do it very, very consistently. It's hard to do. And
I feel like the Dolphins kind of did that last year for the most part. They beat the teams that they were supposed to. Like when they got to that October part of the schedule where you have the Steelers, you have the Lions, you have the Bears. They weren't always tough, but they won all the games that they were supposed to. I don't think that was their problem last year.
But you're going to need to do that really consistently, seeing as how, the Bills are still the Bills. The Jets should be better. Theoretically should be better because they're getting something from the quarterback position.
Yeah.
Where they got nothing last year.
Correct.
They were worthless. And you're facing Kansas City, the Chargers, Dallas.
Final month of the season is that's a gauntlet. The last 4 games are Jets Black Friday, Cowboys at home, going over to the Ravens, and then hosting the Bills. And even before that, before the Jets Black Friday game, you got Tennessee Monday night, and Tennessee, they're always well coached and play well.
Yeah, you got Jets Black Friday, and then Washington and Tennessee, then the Jets again.
Oh, my bad. Yeah, sorry. Yeah. Jets Black Friday first, and then
and
Cowboys. And then Commanders and Titans. My bad.
Right, and those are games. Washington and Tennessee.
Those are games that you gotta win, regardless of where you are. You gotta win those games to set you up for the last month of the season for sure.
Right, and
it is a very tough schedule. I will not discount that, but I think so highly of the Dolphins roster that I think that this should still be it should definitely be a team that has a winning record, and it should certainly be a team that's right in the thick of things in the last month, 2 weeks of the season. I'm not saying that they're going to run away with the division. I'm not saying that they're going to run away with the conference. I'm not saying that they're going to be juggernauts, but I think that this is a very competitive team. Like they have a very competitive roster, and with a year 2 of the offensive scheme, I just wrote a story about how it seems like all the Shanahan proteges, year 2 is like the year that they break out. You had the Falcons. Mike McDaniel was on the staff when Kyle Shanahan was offensive coordinator. 2015, they're pretty dang good. 2016, and I think that was Matt Ryan's MVP year or so. And then they go to the Super Bowl. You got a couple years later with the San Francisco 49ers. The first year was kind of iffy. You trade for Jimmy Garoppolo midway through the year. The second year, they were starting off pretty well. I think he was 2-1 or so, and then he got hurt. But the third year, 2019, is when he plays all 16 regular season games. They break out. They're one of the best teams in the NFC. They go to the Super Bowl. Matt LaFleur with the Green Bay Packers, another Shanahan protege. Year one was Aaron Rodgers, pretty good, 15th in scoring. Second year, 2020, I believe, that's when we get MVP Aaron Rodgers, the number one scoring team. Sean McVay. The first year he turns around Jared Goff, they're pretty dang good. That second year is when they blow up and they go to the Super Bowl. So you have this kind of trend with the offense where it's like, all right, you make some substantial improvements in year one, but year two is where it really clicks. If the Dolphins are following that kind of trajectory on offense, they should have a real. I mean, we saw how good they were last year, but if you're following that trajectory and that trend of year two with the Shanahan scheme, year two is when it should really pick off. And I think that we talked about this months ago. I think the defense could legitimately be just as good, just as dominant as the offense. Because truthfully, I think the defense has more guys, like more guys that you really have to game plan for. On offense, it's Tyreek, Jalen Waddle, and everything they do kind of working with Tua. With the defense, you have guys at every single level of the defense that I think can be impact guys and kind of take over a game, so to speak, whether that's Christian Wilkins or Jalen Phillips, Bradley Chubb, Javon Hall in the back end, Xavier Howard, if he can kind of come back after a so-so season. I think the defense can be just as good, if not better, than the offense in 2023.
And I agree. However, we haven't seen that yet.
Well, that's why it's a prediction and a projection.
And B, this is just a really, really tough conference. And
hey, we gotta stand on something and pick somebody. Somebody's not gonna make the playoffs. Somebody's going.
And so
every team in the AFC.
Looking at their schedule. Looking at their schedule, I see 11-6. I see 11-6, 10-7. But yeah, 11-6. And now how far do they go in the playoffs? I think that
it's very dependent on matchups.
That's so tough because once you get into the playoffs, it's like anything else. Like any other sport.
It's a coin flip, weird stuff can happen, especially in single elimination.
Who's your matchup? Who's your matchup?
Yep.
Some teams have other teams' numbers. Some teams just don't match up well with other teams. Some teams match great with other teams. And where you play will matter. I think it's. I mean, could they find themselves in the Super Bowl? Yeah, why not? Well, why not? Well, somebody's gonna have to knock off Kansas City, and that's been a tough thing the last few years. The Chiefs generally have to beat themselves in the AFC.
I was gonna say when I was just thinking, what is it taking to knock off the Chiefs when it's mattered most?
It's taken a defensive offside penalty that had nothing to do with the interception.
A terrible second half, a very rare terrible second half against the Bengals 2 years back.
Preceded by a terrible last series going into halftime where they could put points on the board that they could have used later.
It took Mahomes in the Super Bowl not having none of his offensive line
and his foot injured.
So it's hey, if there's any year that the AFC is ready, somebody is poised to take down Mahomes and the Chiefs, maybe it's this year because if you look at the top 10 quarterbacks in the NFL, you probably say 6, 7, maybe 8 of the top 10 are in the AFC. But that does kind of segue into our NFL season-long predictions. So they get knocked off. I'm going with the Chiefs. I think they're going to emerge from the AFC, the AFC West. On the other side, one with the 49ers, which is maybe I don't know, maybe kind of I won't say I'm going out on a limb there because they were in the championship game last year, I believe. But Brock Purdy coming back. They got to fix things with Nick Bosa. I think they will eventually. I mean, he's one of the best defensive players in the NFL. I think they'll fix things, get him in the fold. And truthfully, I think they may, if not for Brock Purdy's injury, they may have they might be in the Super Bowl.
He might have knocked off Philadelphia, right?
Yeah, so they got some turnover, especially with DeMeco Ryans going to the Houston to be the Texans head coach. But they're just a well-oiled machine. We know, I mean, I think that there's like I don't know the exact stat, but there is kind of a Super Bowl runner-up hangover where a lot of times the team that loses in the Super Bowl doesn't even get back to the playoffs. I wouldn't go that far. I think that the Eagles do make the playoffs. I think that they're going to be in contention to win the division again. But I'm rolling with the 49ers, barring health. I mean, a lot of times that's what it's been for them. It's been, just a lot of injuries and to the quarterback, to key guys not being able to play. That's really derailed them, not really like the team just not being good. They have one of the best rosters in the NFL. I think we're going to see kind of a rematch of Super Bowl live. That's why I call it, because LIV,
right.
Miami. I think we're going to rematch, and I think that Mahomes does what Mahomes does, and we're just watching like this generation's Tom Brady. That's what it feels like.
It's really hard to pick against the Chiefs when Mahomes was visibly injured in the second half.
I watched it in person. I thought he was done. And then he's staggering for 25 yards to, end the game.
26 yards, and he's limping part of the way. I'm like, y'all can't stop the man. Like, Philly can beef all they want about some of those calls at the end. Get a stop on a team with the quarterback giving around out there. They're a team with they have their strong core. They have a strong core belief. They have a belief in everything they do, and their quarterback makes that belief work. It's a strong thing when you feel like when you're in a game and you can look up at the scoreboard and you're 10 points down in the fourth quarter and you're still thinking, yeah, okay, we still got this. We still got this, and you play that way, and they do, and they have the talent to make that matter. They have the coaching to make that matter.
They got a little bit of early season turmoil though. They got Travis Kelce just hyperextended his knee. They said it's in doubt or it's in question whether he plays week 1. Not a long-term injury, but something to keep in mind. And then their all-pro defensive tackle, Chris Jones, has been holding out. So they got to figure that out. Obviously, those are two very, very key pieces. They were able to overcome losing Tyreek Hill, but I don't know if they can, overcome losing one or two of those guys for several weeks. But I'm assuming that, Kelce will be healthy when things matter most. I'm assuming they're going to get Chris Jones back in the building because he can't hold out all season unless he just doesn't want to get paid, doesn't want to, have an increased season. Like he's going to be back at some point. I think that when it matters most, we're going to see the Chiefs do what the Chiefs do, which is.
It's hard to pick against Kansas City in the AFC. The team I would take other than them is Cincinnati.
I don't know. I think Cincinnati is due for a little regression. I think that they've been. I think as a former Ravens reporter, a guy that lived in Baltimore, watched the AFC North. I think that they've benefited from a lot of very good injury luck. Especially with the Ravens. It kind of surprised me. The Ravens haven't won the division since 2019. The Steelers and then the Bengals have won the division since then. I think that barring health, I think the Ravens are going to be a little bit better. I think, frankly, every non-Bengals team in the AFC North is going to be a little bit better. I think the Browns are a very sneaky team. I think a lot of it is dependent on just how Deshaun Watson looks. If Deshaun Watson resembles anything to the quarterback that we saw pre-suspension, that is a very good Browns roster, like on both sides of the ball. They have one of the best offensive lines. They have a top 5 running back. They have a top wide receiver in Amari Cooper. They've got a top pass rusher. They've got a top cornerback in Denzel Ward. Like they have all the pieces, honestly. They're not a perfect roster, but they have all the pieces at the most important spots. And I think that, the Bengals have lost some guys in the secondary. They lost both their starting safeties. They lost Eli Apples with the Dolphins. Now, I think that we could see a little bit of regression. I don't know how Joe Burrow is going to look like coming from that calf injury. I think he's good for week 1, but I don't know. Like every year you see a surprise team or two, win the division.
Emerge.
Like we can't have chalk from last year. And I think that the Browns could be a team that kind of sneaks up on people this year just because we just don't know. And it takes a lot of projecting with Watson.
I also like like Jacksonville out of the South. I think that's their division now, and they're going
With
to have
that.
that division for a while.
Hey, the Titans are scrappy though. The Titans are scrappy.
Stop.
Hey, they had the most injuries last year. We're playing like 100
I know,
guys.
they set a
It was
record.
week 18, and
They had record
right
injuries. They had played record numbers of players, and it does not matter. They can be 100% healthy. They are still there.
I
they're
agree
still.
with you. I
This is
agree with
no
you on the
longer their
Jags.
place.
I agree with you in the Jags. I'm
They,
just
they've
saying.
got they've got the big horse and the horse in Indy. No. It's no. It's all the real horse. The real horses are the cats in Florida and Jacksonville,
I got you.
and that's their division now. And I think one of the things it's gonna help them is I think they're gonna wrap that. It's also kind of helps Kansas City too. Is I'm not completely sold on the Broncos. Yeah, Russell should be
I think they'll
better.
be better, but I don't
They'll be
think
better,
they'll be
but
good. I think they'll be good enough.
and the Raiders are once again in Raider disarray, disarray, and so that I think that helps Kansas. I think that helps Kansas City. I think that helps Jacksonville, where you're not like every single week, beside in division and with the other conference teams, you're just not every week going, oh gosh, there's no complete gimmies in the NFL, but it's I'd rather have the Raiders as or the Texans as the crap team in my division, and than the Patriots being the fourth team.
Yeah.
Or in the North, if you think the Browns are, the Ravens are going to be there, the Bengals are going to be there, you think the Browns are going to sneak up? Hey, fine. Who's that lead? Oh, the Steelers.
Yeah.
Who would never have a losing record. So it's
AFC's tough.
Life's tough in the North and the East out of the AFC. So I'm gonna still take Kansas City with Cincinnati back up. Over in the NFC, San Francisco is not a out on the limb pick at all. In fact, I think it's a pretty popular pick. For once, and my goodness, I can't believe I'm actually saying this. If Dallas's offense gets it together,
they got a little squad. They got a little squad, and I know it's very easy to make fun of the Cowboys and make jokes. They got a little squad.
Their defense is every great era of the Cowboys. It starts with the defense. Whether it's the Doomsday defense, Doomsday 2. When Jimmy was there and those guys were running it up in the early 90s, people don't realize they were the number one defense in the league the first year they won the Super Bowl. Yeah, they had, Emmett and Troy and Michael Irvin and, Novacek and Moose and everybody and Alvin Harper on offense. But that defense was number one. They kept it from scoring. They turned you over, and they made life pretty easy for that offense, which didn't need much help. So, here we go again. They got a really, really good defense, and
they had Brandon Cooks on offense.
The Super Bowl hangover has been a thing Super Bowl loser hangover has been a thing for a while now. And I think it's because the game is such a big deal. It's such a buildup. It's such a thing. And then to lose it close, which a lot of teams have lately. It used to be one thing, you get blown out and you're just like, okay, well, what much we can do about that. But you lose those games close and you lose them after you have leads. Boy, that sits on your mind. You think that didn't sit on Atlanta's mind the next year?
Yeah.
After they blew 28-3? Philly's got to be sitting there. Philly's got to be sitting there still watching that tape. How many guys watched that tape?
They were the best team. They were the best
How did we lose that game?
Season. Yeah, they were the best team in the regular season.
Yeah. How do we lose? They're sitting there going, how do we lose that game? They didn't. Did they stop us? And how did we not stop them when we needed to? And so, as good as Philly looked, and Philly's going to be good again.
They lost some guys, but they also restocked. They lost, I believe, both coordinators. So, there's going to be a
I
little bit of an adjustment. I think teams are maybe going to be a little better prepared for the offense. I'm not saying it's like a gimmicky offense, but it kind of reminds me of 2019 where what you're doing, it just you just do it so dang well. It's like 2019 with the Ravens and Lamar Jackson, where they
right,
ran a lot of that option stuff. And it's like sometimes you just the first time you see it, you're just not very well prepared for it.
right. Teams just don't adjust.
And you're
Teams can't
and you're a
don't
little
adjust
better
on the fly.
prepared for it. I think that they have more talent, especially on offense, than the second iteration of
Right.
that offense, but in Baltimore. But I think that teams will be a little better prepared, and it is tough. I mean, you have to be very talented to be as good as they were in the regular season. But again, it's like every NFL season, you also have to have a level of luck. I think they have pretty
Luck,
good
right.
injury luck, pretty good injury health.
I
It is
think
tough. I think they're going to be still a very, very good team, but I don't
I
think they're
think
going to be as dominant.
they were unusually consistent last year. Like week in, week out. They did, did seem to get, every break you could during the regular season. But uh boy, I agree with you on San Francisco and the NFC, but I think they're probably the best roster up and down. I'm gonna go with Dallas, and I'm gonna say that we get a Kansas City Dallas Super Bowl. Um, I don't see much coming out of the North. I think the Lions are going to take that division because everybody else is kind of. I feel like everybody else is kind of, this. Everybody else has major weaknesses that pull them down, and the Lions seem to be just kind of steadily moving up. And the NFC South is okay. Who wins it this year? Who loses it this year? Who what
Yeah,
why?
that'll be like the
It doesn't
fourth.
matter.
That'll be the fourth seed, and they'll lose to whoever the
Yeah,
fifth seed is.
yeah,
The fifth seed would
yeah.
probably be like the NFC East second.
That'll be the home team that loses by 20, on
Yeah,
a wild card weekend. Um, so yeah, I'll go with KC Dallas in the Super Bowl. Former Dallas against still Dallas. And hey, AFL roots die hard. And I'll go with let's still go with KC.
it's
It's
Casey.
tough.
It's Casey.
It's
It's Casey.
tough. It's
It's
tough.
Casey. The ratings on that would be crazy though. KC, Dallas. You got Mahomes, and then you got Dallas being Dallas. Yeah, that'd be a ratings bonanza. I think that for Dallas, I think it'd be very good, but
It
there is a
doesn't
little
matter. It's a
there is
Super Bowl. Ratings
yeah, but that'd be
bonanza.
different. That'd be different.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
KC versus Dallas would be different.
Everybody watches the Super Bowl anyway.
Yeah, but now if people are watching that compared to like I don't know Vikings and Jaguars, like not as many people watching that.
I've heard those. Oh, nobody's watching this game this year, and then you afterwards they go, oh, it was more people watched it. The actual ratings, because of the way ratings work, they will never break the record of the 49ers and Bengals back in January of '82 because TV's just too stratified now, and you have streaming services and all that shit. But the but the number of people always increases. It's just like always up. Steelers and Cardinals, blew that. Was the most watched one for a couple of years and few years, and they were more watched than Patriots Giants the year before.
Fair
So
enough. Fair enough.
it's a Super Bowl. Who cares?
I got you.
NFL doesn't care who's there.
Oh, I
Like,
was gonna say the NFL don't care. They're gonna make money regardless.
they're making money. People gotta watch. Nobody's canceling a Super Bowl party because, I remember St. Louis and Tennessee that year. That's not traditional thing. Yeah, nobody canceled a party. No bar saying, okay, no, we're not doing showing the Super Bowl. We're not, don't come. No, come on, please.
I hear you. You're not wrong there. I hear you. All right, so we're pretty lockstep in most of our predictions. We got Chiefs taking it all. We've got the Dolphins, double-digit wins, making the playoffs. Where we do differ, however, is week one. Again, I'm going with the Chargers. You're going with the Dolphins. So we'll definitely be able to recap that next week and see who was right, who was wrong, unless it's a tie. Probably not, but you never know. And then obviously in a couple months from now, we'll get to kind of look back and see who these Super Bowl predictions panned out or didn't. Well, that brings us to the end of another edition of the Dolphins In Depth podcast. I want to thank you guys as always for tuning in. Reminder as always, subscribe to the Miami Herald YouTube page, like, share, comment, subscribe to the Miami Herald. It is game week. We already have tons of content out on the Miami Herald website, so definitely check that out. We're gonna have
stuff to read.
We're gonna have a ton of content in the days to come, previewing the game from all different angles, offense, defense, maybe even special teams, coaching factor in there. So definitely stay locked to the Miami Herald website. We'll be back next week to recap the first weekend of NFL football being back. Enjoy the game. Until then, you guys take care. See you.
Peace.